Wakey, eggs and bakey. How's it going, my fellow filmmakers from El Paso and the world? This is the TowerCast podcast, the towering podcast for the towering filmmakers. How's it going? Everyone get their jitters out of the way. We're about to dig into this podcast. We've been gone for a little while,
2 weeks, man.
2 weeks, a whole 2 weeks break.
Yeah.
I think we're all ready to go, right?
I think we all see it. I see it.
Don't point it out, man. That's why I'm leaning forward. No, but how's it going, you guys? I hope y'all are writing your script still, entering this 2020 with good vibes and just a lot of good lines y'all are writing. Please keep it going. Keep your dreams going. Real quick, as we always do, we'd like to introduce the people we have here as well. Of course, my name is Juan Paul Flores Vasquez. I'm here with
yours truly, John Erik Castro.
My guest today,
the
actually.
actor, professional FPV pilot, here with my director and the people that helped out for At a Loss.
My name is Luis D. Anchondo. I've been a director for you.
Yeah, for sure.
But not At a Loss.
And he was a cinematographer.
One of the best.
Carlos de la Torre here, wrote and directed At a Loss, and Luis was my DP on this. Erik was one of the leads. Welcome to TowerCast. This is great. This is gonna be a good episode.
As always, we have the people who make us look way better than we actually are. Erik Sanchez right here, chilling like a villain. And
Peace
then we
sign.
have Michael De La O, DJ MC Michael De La O up there. How's it
Peace
going?
sign. It's going well.
Keeping the audio going. Appreciate it.
It's sounding great. It was bleeding my ears right now, but we're good.
I tend to do that. And then, of course, the man of the hour, Austin Young.
Austin City over there.
Always looking younger than
Sir Editor.
Editor for At a Loss, right?
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He put his touch in it.
Daniel edited as well. That's right. You guys co-edited.
And he touched it.
I noticed we're pretty biased on this show. We keep talking about Tower production movies for some reason. I don't know. Is it? Oh, it's because it's called TowerCast. My bad. But with that said, we do have a movie we're talking about, At a Loss.
Yes.
Which was directed by Carlos de la Torre.
Yeah. You know what? One thing to mention, just on what you just said about kind of favoriting our films.
I was joking.
Well, no, I know, but it's interesting enough because you're wearing a shirt. That's David Corral Productions, and shout out to David, man. He kills it out there in the music video scene.
I actually met him through the shirt. He just sold some
yeah. And Luis here is also here representing TriCast Pictures. So shout out to them. They're good friends, good friends of Towers. We're actually working on something very exciting that I won't talk about.
Yeah. Also for the other co-star, Valerie.
Yeah, Valerie Corpus. We'll talk about her. Shout out Valerie if you're listening or watching.
We miss you.
Yeah. So shout out to all the different filmmakers in town. But we are favoriting Tower films for at least the next 10 episodes.
We're almost there. We're almost gearing up. But I mean, the beauty of Tower 20 is that it's a time for these filmmakers to reflect. It's a time for these people to look back and say, how much have I grown since then, and what have I done that's pushed these actors and directors and stuff. So it's awesome. I love it. But with that said, I have a lot of questions. First off, what can you tell me about this movie that you haven't really said about any other movie beforehand? Like what makes this one kind of a unique or special in a way?
Can I say?
Sure.
I think it's one of the first one where it's a 2-part.
3-part.
Really?
3-part. Yeah, it's a 3-part. That's very interesting.
3-part in what way?
Well, here's the thing. At a Loss is technically it's part of a trilogy. Something I called the closure trilogy because these 3 films did a lot with these characters dealing with closure in their life. But however, the interesting thing about this film is that it's number 2 in sequence, but it was written and directed last. It was never supposed to be a trilogy. I wrote and directed Edge of Desire, which we did an episode about.
That's reminiscing over the girl.
That's reminiscing over the girl and kind of seeking closure over that chapter in his life. And I loved doing that film. And then I had an incident happen that connected this into a trilogy. So something very sad, and I won't get too deep into it. But at the time, my dog passed away suddenly. It was a car hit him and it was bad. It was just a sudden thing. I went through a kind of a bad spot. If you know me and you know that I love my dogs.
You love your dogs, yeah.
And so we went through a kind of a hard piece there, and then I wrote a film called Ineffable, which we'll have an episode about. I think it's like 2 or 3 episodes away. Ineffable dealt with, oddly enough, I remember when I pitched it to Austin, it dealt with suicide, and it dealt with like just heavy sad themes. And I pitched it to Austin. It was right around the time when my dog died, and Austin's like, "Are you okay, man? Is this okay?" But with that connection, we felt that Ineffable and Edge of Desire connected directly. It felt like this character of Oliver we could see more of his story, and that's why Ineffable was written. And then Austin thought, well, hey man, why not do a trilogy? Like, we're missing a piece, we're missing some middle ground there. So that's when I came up with the concept for At a Loss. Really quickly, Ineffable is about a guy who's nearing to what he thinks is going to be the end of his life. He wants to commit suicide. He's going to throw his car off a bridge, off a cliff. And he, in a sudden moment of, I guess, hope, he calls a suicide hotline. While he's talking to the suicide hotline individual, he falls in love, and she falls in love, and they both connect through different likes and through different situations in their own lives that they connect with. So I thought, well, if the missing link is the girl, then maybe that's the story we need to tell, is the story of that character, of the girl that went through something, obviously, to have to work at a suicide hotline and want to help other individuals with suicide. She must have had to go through something pretty heavy, which is where At a Loss comes about. The story with At a Loss, it's about this girl who is in a very great relationship, who we see their dynamic. Erik plays that individual, her boyfriend. They live together. They have a really serious relationship going on. They're nearing this commitment where he's going to propose. Go watch the film. Something very tragic happens to him, and she has to deal with the aftermath of that. And that's really what the film is about. And her way of dealing with the aftermath is to help other individuals who are going through loss, hence the word loss. So yeah, that's really what the film is about in a nutshell. Go watch it. That's what we're focusing on today. It was one of the most challenging films to develop, I'll say that much. So we can get into that.
So what was developing like then? Like you, because it's like a very personal. Well, I mean, you put yourself in there. So like, do you feel like you casted the right?
Oh, sure. I mean, so Edge of Desire, we had Damien in the lead.
Shout out to Damien.
Yeah, shout out to Damien. He was in the lead, and he was the lead for Ineffable. That was always kind of the goal. But they're all in our age range, right? We're all in our age, these characters, and that's on purpose. Because you don't see people our age, at least we don't see what they go through in a public forum. We see preteens and teens go through their formative kind of issues. Yeah. And then we see older people who are going through midlife crisis or stuff like that. But we don't see the 20 to 30s kind of like tragedies that some people face, right? It's funny because last night we watched, my fiance and I watched Midsummer, and that's our age range. And they go through, like, she goes through something very heavy, right? At least with her family. So I wanted to explore that a little bit, which is why casting Castro for the role of Mario was important to me. Same age range. Individuals are living together now at this early in life, and they're making commitments, and they're making, but there's also those people that are in their late 30s, barely considering having kids and stuff like that. But it's all in our age gap, So I thought that was important to tackle in terms of the cast. Valerie Corpus, she's a great young actress, but she could play older, very much so. I think she's 18, 19. I think she's not eight. She's very young.
I thought she was older.
Exactly.
I thought she was 20 or something.
No, she could play older for sure. She could play older, and she had to be matched really well with Castro. And I mean that's a considerable age difference, But you don't really tell.
She's awesome. She's an awesome actress, man. You can feed off of her as an actor.
And kudos, because she moved out to LA. She's pursuing acting out there.
That's awesome.
Kudos to her.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It was, I don't want to say it's development now. It's just, it was very ambitious. If you've seen the film, there's a type of plethora of locations, and very ambitious locations, like driving sequences where she almost gets into an accident, using a big truck, using this big canyon road. We shot most of it inside Michael's house. Shout out to Michael. He let us use his house for that. It was weird. in terms of development, again, TriCast has always been a friend of Towers. We've been good for a few years now, and we've always wanted to collaborate on something, but just the timing's never there. Either Towers working on something or they're working on something. I reached out to Francisco, and I told him, hey man, Erik, I usually use Erik as my DP. He's usually my go-to DP. He couldn't do it for some reason. I don't remember what happened.
It was just work.
It was work. He couldn't get the days off or something, and we had already scheduled the film. So he dropped. I called Francisco and I was like, hey man, I don't know what you're working on. I need a DP. Could you DP? He DP'd for me before for a class assignment. And if you've seen Francisco's work, he's a really impressive DP. And he said, you know what, man, I'm working on something right now, but you should really consider Luis as a DP. I didn't think of Luis because I hadn't seen enough of what Luis has done. TriCast was building up to their release, so we hadn't seen a ton of stuff. As friends, we had seen cuts, and we had seen kind of just stuff to get feedback on or give feedback on, but I hadn't seen enough of Luis's work. And when Francisco vouched for him, I was like, okay, all right. I mean, let me talk to him. Let me sit with him and see if he even likes the script. He may not be into it. And then I'll pass it over to Luis. I sent you the script, and then I don't know.
Yeah, from my perspective,
Luis.
What was your perspective like? Was it as emotional?
TriCast.
I mean, you guys are very professional. You guys are like, you always had that kind of like really good production mentality of like scheduling and everything like that. And when you get something goes awry, I feel like you guys always kind of try to do the best to kind of like keep it the best, fix it on the best possible way. My perspective was like, I was like 10 a.m. the day like 10 p.m. the day before shooting day, and like I get the script and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read it and I'm gonna see what's up. So I usually my way of working is like I pick something up and I analyze it, and I kind of like I do a bunch of stuff.
I feel like you like to talk to the director a lot, huh?
Yeah.
That too, and I do a lot of references.
We should mention Luis is a writer-director in his own right. He's directed three films, 2.5 films.
Where are they?
2.5.
What are they?
Where are they?
Where are they and what are they?
They're not public yet.
Yeah, they're not public yet. They I want to go through like a little festival run if that's possible. But one of them was with Castro, and it was very experimental. It was about like these kind of this performer that is a painter, and he goes through different like
I was Frida.
He was Frida Kahlo. Like, he gets really crazy. He was Frida Kahlo. He was like Picasso.
Wow, that's true.
That was a fun
So
that was my first time working with you guys.
Yeah. So I did that one, and then I did another one set in a bar, and it was all set in a bar, and it was this kind of like tragic like story about love and friendship. And the last one was about like the first one that I actually did was about a musician that goes to LA, and he's pursuing his dreams. He doesn't make it. He comes back. There's like this dramatic thing going on with his sister about her losing her hearing.
Okay.
So I've been he's a musician.
like that.
so it's like tragic and
we've had the pleasure, and if you missed out, man. But we've had the pleasure of being friends and seeing early cuts and kind of again giving each other perspective. But also, we got to go to the TriCast screening at Alamo Draft House where they premiered all their work. So if you missed out on that, it was kind of public for the most part, right? I mean, you invited whoever could make it. Yeah. And if you missed out, man, you missed out. It was great.
But we're gonna do other ones. Likewise, I mean, that has been our collaboration. Kind of like he shares scripts and stuff like that. I read.
So
them,
I'm looking at Disney and Sony basically right now, right? You guys are.
I wouldn't. I mean,
well, besides
maybe.
And Blumhouse.
Yeah, it's probably like Disney and
Blumhouse over here.
Blumhouse over here.
Disney and Fox type of thing, man. I mean, in the sense that we're collaborating and we're doing other stuff.
Tommy was so pictures over here.
But no. I mean, they're the other. Kudos to all filmmakers in El Paso, but I don't think we have a relationship with any other studio than we do with TriCast.
You guys seem to have a bond.
Likewise, man.
The creativity is there, man. Like the challenge, the competitive creativity.
We challenge each other for sure, man. And I think we have that relationship where like we straight up are gonna tell you because of how good we think you are. Like if Luis comes to me with one of his films, because of how good I think he is as a filmmaker, I'm not gonna hold back on what he should be doing.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
like it would be a disservice for him, like if I don't tell them straight up, like, hey man, your film needs this and that,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Your script needs this and that.
So,
And again, we're collaborating on something so exciting right now that
Screw it, I'm gonna say it.
that I am
It's
not.
a.
I'm not at liberty to talk about
Damn right you're not.
just yet, but it's something so exciting. We're really really collaborating with
Yeah.
TowerCast,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
it's been great. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah,
It's
no,
been like
it's been
amazing
really
on the
good.
collaborative form.
yeah,
It's been great.
going back to that night.
Yeah.
So I was reading the script and it's like Carlos said, it was very ambitious. Like there was so many set pieces that I was like, okay, this is very attractive from a cinematographer standpoint. You're giving me the chance to do all this stuff if you guys pull.
Because you're supposed to express those emotions through the images.
Through the
that-
images
yeah,
and
It's
everything
a lot of
like that.
moving parts.
It's a lot of moving parts, and honestly, like at that point, I had only been doing cinematography for Francisco Castañeda, which is, so at that point, like I hadn't had like, like going to another production company,
No,
it's
I don't
completely
think you
different.
had,
It's
yeah.
completely different. So, it was a leap. It was a leap, and I told him, okay, yeah, let's do it. And then, like right away, it was where did we shoot? It was the restaurant. That was the first.
Oh, okay. We shot
scene.
at Steve-O's Burger Bar up on
Yeah.
the east side. They were so good to us, and it was
Yeah,
it was the perfect venue for what we were trying to go for. And they were so catering to us, man. They turned down the music when we asked them to. They kind of give us our own little section to set up our stuff
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
We even used their patio area to like rehearse. And
Yeah,
it
yeah.
they were great, man. I think they were really great to us.
The proposal scene?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was Steve-O's?
that was
So it was
yeah,
like a
Steve-O's.
huge thing. It was a huge scene where with a lot of like components, and it was
Oh.
like one day. Like
Well, yeah. Talk about the cinematography. There's a little Easter egg in that scene that the main actress didn't know about that we surprised her with. It was great. But anyways, talk about kind of how you came into it. What I have to express about Luis as a DP, he comes prepared, because in the sense that Erik, as a cinematographer, who's been my main cinematographer, he's more of a visual guy. He knows what he wants, but he's the type of cinematographer that he'd rather show you than tell you. He doesn't know how to articulate it. He's going to show you, this is what I think we should shoot it in.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I trust him so much that when we get to set, we're like, all right, we're going to do this shots.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
storyboards for me, sure.
He's proven.
But he's very
He's
quick
proven.
on his, like, I know what we've got to do for this, and I don't know how to explain it, but just check
Yeah.
it out. And he'll
Yeah.
show me. Luis came with a binder.
Yeah.
In the binder, he had a script. He had all the storyboards for the
Wow.
entire film.
That's true. I remember that.
Or at least that scene that day.
that day, yeah, it was
Yeah.
just a scene. It was
For that scene, but every scene, when I'm saying every day you came to production, you had your storyboards in dire detail and his
did your
notes
homework,
and
man.
his notes on the script. I mean, he came with a binder of his own
Cool.
pre-production.
And as a director,
I
that's freaking.
How does that
it's-
help you? Because obviously that gives
it's
you more.
different. It's different because I think Erik is more lenient to my catering to what I want. Erik will say, if he has a shot and I say, no, you know what, let's push it on that shot a little more. I don't, from his original concept. Luis will say, I thought about this shot for a lot of time.
Oof.
I think we should consider it the way it is. So he'll convince me that I've taken my time to think about this. Let's try it, and if you don't like it, then we'll change it.
So
You know.
in that regards, I feel like you were talking about like what we grew and what we learned from this film.
Yeah.
I feel like very much that was one of the biggest things like coming out of it, is that I had a lot of this like key points that I wanted to hit on certain shots that I talked with Carlos about, and like you have these ideas, right? It's like, oh yeah, I have like this shot of I don't know if you've seen Her.
I love Her.
There's like flashback sequences where there's a lot of light and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I was like, let's
That's-
do that.
That's
and
what
it's
we
like,
went for. Yeah.
And that's what we went for. And it's like some shots you get that, but other shots, because maybe I wasn't
It's because
like
if you're not
super lenient.
it's because if you're not careful with it, if you're not careful with lighting, and Luis is very keen on lighting. I don't know who gaffed for us that film. Maybe it was Michael in most sequences.
Michael in his house.
and
Michael
his house,
But
but the rest
other
of it was
people-
natural light
it
and
was
the
natural light.
natural, in the night
He
as well.
gaffed in the canyon too.
He gaffed in the
And the
canyon.
canyon, too.
He did. But for the restaurant scene, it was all natural lighting. It was during the day.
Mm.
I think we had a couple of like lights that we kind of brought that probably didn't do much. But
Yeah.
if you're not careful with that, you could create J.J. Abrams lens flares. You
Right.
don't want. That's not what we wanted.
Right.
You want these spectacles of light, and you see the dust and the light
Right.
type of thing transition into
Mhm.
that. That was Her. That's what we were going for.
Yeah.
So if you're not careful with that, it could turn into those
Blockbuster-y
really weird
looking.
lens flares.
Yeah.
And I think Luis pulled it off. Especially, It was grainy, which I wanted. It looked like a portrait.
Mhm.
And that's what I think we wanted for the cinematography of this film,
Yeah.
especially the flashback scenes and stuff like that. So I think that it set the tone, the restaurant scene, for what we wanted.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I do think that that like looking back, I definitely would have kind of, there's a lot of things that I would have kind of like tweaked and stuff
course.
like that.
Yeah.
And I do feel like we got our handling towards like the later on of the production where we
Sure.
I mean, again,
It's 'cause
shout out
you
to
gotta-
Valerie. Like there was,
yeah.
I think that for me the gold day was the hospital, because the hospital.
Mm.
So I like other
That was heavy.
shots
That was a
more,
heavy day.
but Valerie came in with this mentality, and you can talk about this about like well, you can also talk about this more than anything. It's very emotional scene,
Sure.
and then I was like, okay, am I gonna be able to capture it?
Shout out to Sun City Emergency over on the west side, Sun City West. They
Sun City
let us
Emergency,
shoot in there.
24.
They let us shoot. We had our own hospital room. We had the hospital lobby.
Wow, really?
Wow.
It was,
Who played me in the hospital bed?
nobody. There was no. Did
You
you
were
see the
dead.
movie, Eric?
Okay, no,
You were
okay, yeah, I
dead.
forgot that
The emptiness is more impactful
that's
than
true,
the
true,
body. Like you just see the empty bed,
Edit
and
that
that
out,
was
my bad. Brain fart.
no, but no. I think in terms of what you're saying, Juan, it was interesting because we never worked with each other before, so we
Oh,
had
really?
to find that dynamic.
Mhm.
And in terms of growth, he had to learn. I think what was good for you is that I had to learn to work with a cinematographer that was going to stand his ground,
Hmm.
and he had to learn to work with a director. I don't know how Francisco is in terms of production with you when you're his DP, but
Did you hear that,
I had to learn. No, I had to learn. I had to learn of like somebody who stands his ground because he believes in the shot for philosophical reasons.
Mhm.
That's how Luis is.
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
terms, right?
Hmm.
He had to learn of when to. I think of when to let the director also do his thing.
Mhm.
Because I think I compromised in shots
Mm.
and lighting, but I didn't compromise in camera movement.
Mhm.
And I think you see that the most in the montages. Because the montages is my favorite thing of this film.
Yeah, me too.
I love the montages of this film, and I was keen on I wanted to be a single take, blocking with objects in front of the camera to transition into the next scene, and we did it.
But this
And
was a really ambitious project because you had, I mean, just from the sounds of it, like multiple locations.
Yeah.
Like, how did you guys establish like a good connection between each other without having worked on so many projects beforehand?
I think we just respected each other as filmmakers, and when you have that mutual respect, you trust that other person.
Oh, you'll hear him out more. Like,
Yeah, you'll know that their decision. Look, actors, you could speak to this, Eric. Right? As an actor, when you make a choice, you want people to back you up on your choice,
Right.
because you know why you're making that choice. On behind the camera, if I'm making a choice, it has to be justifiable.
Mhm.
It has to be justifiable to my DP.
Mm.
It has to be justifiable to my gaffer.
That's a good way to
It has
put
to
it.
be justifiable to my cast.
Mhm.
And if he's making a choice, it has to be justifiable.
Mhm.
And I trust why he's justifying that point.
Mhm.
And I think it has to be mutual.
Yeah.
I thought that's the shorthand we had was I trust you, you
So
trust
he
me.
proved himself to you,
Yeah.
or both of you guys.
But before we even got to work on the film, we already respected each other as filmmakers.
Mhm.
I think that's important.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like it was one of those things that at the beginning it was a lot of like, okay, like, look, this is what I'm thinking, this is why. And like giving the reason why then kind of justifies the way that
Yeah.
you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Later on, I feel like at the very end, it was much more of like, no, like, trust me, like, this is going to be the way that we're going to do it.
Trust me being the keywords.
Yeah, and again, like, we learned so much from that collaboration
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
both sides of it. I mean, the very end, it was a very small crew. It's an extremely small crew,
Yeah.
and the dynamic was much
It's
more
weird
like
for
organic.
for the restaurant scene, for the hospital scene, and for the house. We had a big crew,
Yeah.
and for the canyon, we had a small crew. This big canyon where we needed to stretch out lights and we needed to communicate
When you
with the
needed it
truck on
most.
when to go. We had a small crew
I'm freezing our ass
and
off.
freezing.
What
grass.
was that? How did you guys get around that then? Like, having,
Okay, so
what is it like to have a fluctuating crew? Because I feel like that's what happens sometimes, right?
I think that's the indie.
happens.
Right?
That's the indie way that happens. Austin and Eric and I know this. When we first started Tower, we knew that we wanted to have whoever could help us on board, but we knew that if that didn't happen, at least the three of us had to be able to do every job.
Mm-hmm.
So at the very least, I know we can count on each other for that. If we have more crew, awesome. If we don't, we were prepared for this type of thing. Especially in the early Tower 20 days, we were like, hopefully the whole crew can make it. Chances are they're not going to.
Because I'm always surprised. I watch these movies and I'm like, dang, dude, like, because I mean, I'm a part of Tower. I work with you guys and stuff, so I'm just like, wow, like you guys really send it. Like if you guys have like a script, a story,
They earn the respect, dude.
yeah, like
They
it's
earn-
very
they
yeah.
earn my
You guys
respect.
you guys earn my respect, and that's why I look up to you guys. I do, and you know that, and you know
No,
that.
I know. I
Yeah,
think
me too,
the goal for Tower 20 was to tell good stories. To tell good stories, but to make them look, forgive the word, make them look expensive. Make it look like it has some production value, but that has to go under the story. The story has to be told the right way, but we're gonna use techniques that gives us some validity, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why you bring people like Luis, who's prepared, who knows what he wants for this specific films.
Is there a specific scene that you felt like that? Like, which scene do you feel like you put the most meaning into, in terms of cinematography?
So I think I put meaning in all of them, but whether it translated, I think that's a different question. I think and I agree with you. The one that better translated was the montage scene.
The montage scene.
Yes, because I feel like it didn't come from just one place of like, this is a cool idea or whatever. It came from a place of like, okay, like you already have the feeling of it.
Right.
I have the
You need to execute
scenario.
it.
I have the scenario to execute it,
Yeah.
and I had Michael that day to really
and that's
push
the
it.
Perfect,
really
that's
push it.
the
So
perfect
it was a balance.
collaboration
It was a balance.
between a director and the DP. I think is to that I have a vision. Okay, I have a way to execute your vision.
So, let me talk a little bit about the montage, but I'm not gonna say what it is.
No.
But I really, it's a montage that contrasts something that it's already set up, and the way that it's pretty much like just a callback. But I think what it works is that the only different thing about it is just the mood changes, like through the whole, like,
because they're two
elements.
okay. So they're two montages to be exact. There's two different ones, but they're the exact same montage.
Yeah.
They're the exact same camera movement. The first one is happy and giddy. Think Up. I think that's what we talked about. We've talked about Up a little bit.
Oh yeah.
We talked about the tone of them meeting and falling in love and getting married, and it's happy and it's giddy and it's great. And then the exact same thing, but it's sad and tonally very different. But it's the same score.
Yeah.
And I think that was our goal.
we talked about
is
it.
like we have two different montages of the same caliber. One of them has to be much more. They're both super emotional, but the tone are parallel. They're completely different.
Since this kind of was the inception of the story was emotional, do you think that's what drives you to push
I think it translated.
your directing styles? And
I'm gonna be completely honest. My producers told me to talk about this. Okay.
go ahead.
I didn't want to talk about this.
Are you
But-
in church confessing?
But yeah, I didn't want to talk about this. But
This is what
and
TowerCast
Luis
is.
knows
Confessions.
this. Luis knows this. Probably everybody in this room knows this. I know Francisco knows this. I came out of this, the final product of this film. I came out very like kind of bummed out. It didn't translate to be the film I thought I was gonna do. Not for bad reasons. The cast was great. The crew was great. The camera work, cinematography, everything was great about the film. But the story didn't feel. Truthfully, it felt like connective tissue. Like I was trying to force connective tissue for the trilogy. I didn't want that to be. I wanted each of these individual films to feel like their own. And I was really bummed out, man. Like when we released it, I guess that's the filmmaker journey, right? You make a film, you're excited about the idea, you make it, you're excited about the finished product, and then you release it, and you get that people aren't connecting with it as much.
Yeah.
Because you had expectations.
Because you had expectations. Edge of Desire connected with a lot of people. I've mentioned that. I got text messages. We got emails and people saying like, I really connected with this. Like,
I told you right off the
people
bat
we
in
didn't
class,
even know.
dude.
Yeah, when I
was
showed
like-
it.
I
in
did get to see a
class,
good of it. A good
we
chunk
get
of
got a great response. At a Loss didn't get a lot of hits, partially because it's really long. It's like a 33-minute film, I
it.
think.
Right.
and it's one of the longer ones, and it didn't. I guess maybe that's why people. I don't know if it was the story that they didn't connect with, the length of it. Something wasn't connecting with people, and it bummed me out. I was like depressed, man. I was depressed after that, and forever I didn't want to hear about it. I was like, all right, I'm moving on to the next thing. I don't want to know about this film anymore. Whatever. And then my friends, collaborators, and were like convinced, like, hey, we get where you're coming from, but there's a lot of good in this movie. Like, there's a lot of good chunks of filmmaking that has merit. And that made me feel a lot better. The montage stuff, the canyon stuff, all of that stuff,
I like the ending.
has a lot of merit. We got to shoot at the Wells Fargo building for this, which was
really?
awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, cool.
The ending was shot at the Wells Fargo building.
How did you secure those locations? You just like ask, email?
Okay.
You know?
Michael's house, obviously Michael's house was great. We shot there. Steve-O's was just a matter of talking to the manager, and they were great. The canyon, we shot at McKelligan Canyon, but not the one the public knows about. There's a fork in McKelligan Canyon where you go up to the hiking trails, and then it's a materials company for truck drivers. Well, my dad and my uncles work there. They're all truck drivers, and the company's called Cemex. And I went to go talk to the chairman. He was there, and I was like, "Hey, man, we want to shoot a film. It's indie. We're not making any money off of it." And he was totally cool with it, as long as we run it through security, that we're not doing something super extreme.
Right.
They didn't know that we were doing a crash or almost crash scene. I just said, no, it's just there's some girls driving through a canyon and nothing crazy.
Cool.
So, because my families are all composed of truck drivers and automotive technicians, the truck that's in the movie is a cousin of mine's. Shout out to Ruben. He helped us out a lot. He was on set. He brought his truck. He was totally receptive to doing whatever we wanted. So that was great. It was freezing that night, and we had the truck. We had decent sized crew, very small crew. Michael took a bunch of lights. So we had it must have been like 10 o'clock at night, right?
It was late.
So nobody was coming in and out anymore.
That's good. Yeah.
So we had kind of complete control of it. But that's how we secured that location. And the Wells Fargo building, we had so much trouble getting it because we talked to a company called Regis. And they're basically a shared space company where you can rent an office or that type of thing. But we talked to them about kind of double hitter. We were trying to rent an office, and then we said, hey, can we shoot something here? And they were great about it. They were like, yeah, of course, no problem, you know. But we did have to rent an office for a day for another film. It was for this one. It was for Ineffable. We rented an office, so we asked them, hey, can we shoot the ending of this other film here? And since we rented an office for a day, they were like, yeah, that's cool, do whatever you want. But what a lot of people don't know is each floor of the Wells Fargo building, it's a different company or a different function,
right.
A lawyer's office or whatever. So whatever this floor says doesn't apply to the rest.
Oh, okay.
So they said yes to us, but when we try to shoot in the outside of the building in the lobby, the security was like, no, I don't care what they said.
Yeah.
This building is owned by a whole,
right.
You know. So they shut us down a lot, man. Like if they saw us going in with, like, he's like, he said something along the lines of like, our lease agreement states that you can't shoot in their office either, so I don't know why they're letting you shoot film in there. So we're like, yeah, they said yes to us, man. That's all we know.
Did that take up a lot of time in
oh yeah, because we had to sneak all of our equipment in.
Oh shoot,
we had to take it like piece by piece.
Yeah, actually,
you remember? We had to like, so if they saw us with film equipment trying to get on the elevator, they'd stop us at the door and kick us out.
Oh dang.
So kind of little by little, like one of us would talk to the security.
We Mexicans, man,
and
we know how to sneak in.
Yeah, pretty much, dude.
Yeah, really.
So though we secured it and they were great. We got to shoot there.
And they were cool with us shooting like towards another side of the building,
right?
Which we made it work. And honestly, it was really cold that day too.
One of my favorite scenes though, because
and we were like there for hours and hours and hours, kind of like blocking it and everything like that. I mean, props to you that you were actually there for so long.
One of my favorite things was the shot. One of my favorite shots of the film. Valerie's character is looking. The building is reflective. and it was hard to get that shot. You remember we had to like move the camera up and down and kind of angle it a certain
And
way.
it's not perfect, but definitely is one of my
favorite shots. It's her looking into the reflection of the building, and you see her face is very different. You see that this is now the aftermath.
Really?
She's gone through the mourning like I mourned this death, and she's now at a place where she's trying to move on.
Yeah. So
with that many restrictions though, with somebody looking over your shoulder, you guys having to like find ways to bring in your equipment, how do you still squeeze in that expressiveness? And like, do you just pop back into that mindset of like, okay, now I'm making art, I'm making my art? Like, how do you?
To me, I don't know how you feel, Luis. It feels like I told you before, story has to go above the quality to a certain degree,
Yeah. I also feel like restrictions in some way allow you to be more creative than if you like originally had like a thing that you wanted to do,
and then that's like, I can't do it anymore, right?
Yeah, because I've learned that maybe implying things is more powerful than just showing it, like all like.
Well, what do you do? Because obviously you're always like I you're very thoughtful about your shots. Like, do you ever come across a moment where like you can't do it anymore because of something of the sorts that ruins it for you? Like,
well, that's what I was talking about, like about learning on this film. Is like at that point I couldn't get this shot because we were there for so long and we were seeing the like sun's set, right? So I was like, oh, this light is perfect here and this light is perfect here. So I was like every 5 minutes I was like adapting
to a shot
until a point where I was like, okay, like we need to wait for a while and we're gonna see what happens. And then we had the idea of like, okay, what if we just? It was one of those things that is like you're kind of prepared and you kind of let your creativity wander a little bit. So we're like, oh, what would happen if we start the shot with her reflection and then do a pan?
That's like Luis's like mantra, man. Like the words you will hear him say on set the most, especially when he's dealing with adapting to something other than his original idea, is what would happen if this? What would happen if this? What would happen if... So that's helpful to find solutions.
Keep your options open.
Yeah. Because I think my brain goes to, and Luis knows this, the reason I think At a Loss was very different for me was because I love films. I think dialogue to me is like, it's like music. And it's very important. So I really like to make dialogue heavy films. This was the first film that I think was more action than dialogue because we had different sequences in different locations and you had more of the plot than you did of the character. So Luis, being a very visual storyteller, had to convince me on many occasions that it was about show don't tell. And I'm not that storyteller. I'd rather tell you in an interesting way to entice you through dialogue than show you. And that's not always the favorite option, by the way. An audience doesn't like to hear people talk for 2 hours. They like to see captivating things. And
depends on the audience.
I guess you're right. But I think that's what was tough for me about this one was Luis had to convince me on multiple occasions, like, hey, we can't get her walking through the door and we can't have the wonder you want going through the elevator because the security's not going to let us. What if we did this? And that's where we got the reflective shot. Was like, well, what if we just had her walking? It's a very poetic shot, and I'm glad he talked me out of the wonder I wanted to get.
Yeah, it's about playing. It's having fun too.
That's true. Yeah, we forget to have fun, right? We always sometimes we forget to have fun.
As an actor, man, you don't really see the hard work that goes behind the scenes. Like you do see it, you appreciate it, but hearing it out, all those little quirks and improv and
hey, Erik, I
love that, dude.
I was listening to a podcast that reminded me of you. It's WTF by Mark Maron. It's a cool podcast. Check it out. But first, check out TowerCast, and then you can check out that.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt and Leo were on it.
What?
And one of questions they were talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Mark Maron asks them, "Do you guys ever want to direct? Like, do you guys see yourselves directing?"
That's a good question.
And Leo's like, "I don't think so, unless there's a story that I think only I can tell." He's like, "But perhaps no." And Brad Pitt was like, "Nah, man,
I can see Brad.
You're not gonna see me directing. It's not my thing. I don't have the guts for it." He's like, but it makes you appreciate filmmakers for what they are.
For sure.
He's like, so as an actor, I don't think I'm ever gonna be able to direct because when I'm on a film, I'm on a film for 3 months and then I go on to the next thing. It drives me nuts that filmmakers are on films for 2 years.
Yeah.
So just I don't know. It made me think of you of like.
It's just so true, man. You guys do put in the hard work. Us, we have to, put it in the screen, right? Make the character believable. But just when you see their passion, it's like you gotta bring
it
game
in.
up. Yeah, yeah. So I really do appreciate that.
How do you feel about your character for this? What did you feel? What was the inception to wanting to do this? Because I don't remember.
One word.
I don't remember writing this for you.
The
Usually I
rejection.
write for you.
The rejection really stood out to me.
How so?
It was just, I don't know if we've all been rejected. I've been
Sure.
rejected. But this guy was just at
A way of living.
like you said, at that age where you pop the big question.
Yeah.
I've never been through that, right? I could relate to it, but so that just stood out to me, man. Just like, oh man, like,
Imagine.
can I bring my own emotions and then get creative with it? So I really love the script for sure. And then Valerie, man. I worked with her in another script. Was it before Poster Girl or after?
No, I think it was Poster Girl. You did Poster Girl and then you did this with her.
No, I think it was the other way, right?
Well, she was also in Date Night, right?
Yeah, but he wasn't in Date
Yeah.
Night.
No.
I just really respect Valerie, man. She's just a really good actress.
She's a
And
classy act.
as
She's
an
a
actor,
classy
man,
act,
once you get that co-star that you can feed off, and she's cool with whatever you're doing, and she flirts with whatever you're doing, right? The idea, man, you try to make gold with that, right?
Yeah.
So I love that the script,
Sure.
obviously, and then the co-star, man. It was just once you get a co-star like that,
Yeah.
I wonder, like,
it's gravy, dude.
it was a really big scene the first day for you, like, as an actor. Like, did you just kind of, like, went in? How did you tackle that?
Actually, man, this could sound weird. I started seeing Valerie doing her part, with dancing and everything, and that got me into my role. Like,
Really?
okay, she's doing her part. She's starting the story out.
His scene was heavy, like in an emotional way.
The first day of production.
Oh, first day was
like,
at the restaurant.
the
When we
restaurant.
proposed.
That was the first one?
That was the first day
Yeah.
of production.
Oh man, that was hard because it was the rejection part. So it was.
You have to keep in mind. I again, just like I have my go-to people for the most part. Again, Erik with DPing, Castro with acting. We like to make fun that the Tower 20 is basically just a big reel an acting reel for Erik because he's in most of the films. That's
why I
on
love these
purpose.
guys, man.
It's not like if we don't have anybody else, we're just use Castro. I really truly do believe in Castro's ability.
Can I hug him?
I think that he's one of the most underrated and talented actors in El Paso.
I'm learning.
And the
I'm
reason he's
swinging.
not used elsewhere is because he hasn't gone out. Because he's
That's why I asked him
comfortable.
earlier today. You
He's
don't-
comfortable with us, but the reason you haven't seen him in more production companies is because he's comfortable working with us and he loves working with like TriCast.
Would you
I'm-
say
I'm
you're
growing.
still finding
People he
your,
knows.
Yeah,
finding
for
your voice?
sure, dude. I'm learning. I'm growing.
He's gonna be in something soon that I don't know if we're at liberty to talk about, but
I'm so excited for that one, dude.
What I really learned from
Yes.
you on my thing as an like director actor is that it's invaluable to have somebody that leaps all the way to something that you
we'll
don't
go
know.
there with you.
Yeah, that's gonna go 100% into
Yeah. Something getting out of your comfort zone is, but I love it.
it's because
like,
that's the
and I
interesting
really
part. Look,
respect
the
that. I
reason
really
I bring
respect
up the Tower 20 man is because you have Castro in different. You have Castro in different roles, but when they're my roles, when he's the lead in my films, look at Castro in let's look at him in The Tram, and then look at him in At a Loss. I meant not two different characters, but even then, I made you cut your hair for this. I made you shave your beard.
Yeah.
I made you but I made him dress in like a 3-piece suit. Like it's way different than this survivor of
That's
a
very
zombie
true.
apocalypse thing.
Glad he
Because
notices
I
that.
do see the range and I do think he could play it off. And it's not until Castro will go there with you 100%, but he's going to question you every step of the way
Really?
with good reason.
Yeah, I'm just trying to flirt with
No,
your
no,
ideas.
of course.
With good
Where
reason.
you're
He's
at.
going to
I like
question
that. I
why
like
I should do this.
I'd rather take that than somebody who just says the lines and just.
That's my point.
Yeah, no,
is
no.
like he'll go there with you. He'll question why he's doing it, but he won't question your choice.
No.
He'll trust in you. And in this thing, it was like I was trying to make him look more sophisticated. I didn't want him to
was a
be the
little
playful.
different, but
I didn't
not
want him to
rugged.
be the playful best friend. I wanted
Right.
him to be the guy that owns a house that's going to his 9 to 5 in the morning that is getting ready to make a commitment. Look, I just got engaged this last year. You have to, you have to get to a point where like yeah, I'm still playful. I'm still a kid. But
Right.
you have to get to a point where like hey, I am I ready for this?
That's what stood out to me with that script.
You know,
I was like, okay.
am I ready for this? And his character had to convince the audience that he was ready for this.
Right.
know?
Right, because I mean, we're supposed to feel for him, right?
Yeah.
Like we're supposed to
Empathize with that.
Yeah, empathize.
Dude,
with
getting
him.
rejected, especially in a proposal.
How do you feel about production? You were there for most of the time.
Dude, I tell you guys all this all the time, dude. Nothing but respect. As an actor, you just gotta show up and say the lines, right? Gotta make magic.
Does it feel like a playground to you? Like
For sure. Like, yeah, for sure with him and with Austin, dude. Austin, my editor, dude, he just... Man, I bitch at him a lot, dude. I'm always over his shoulder, like, trying to tell him, hey, man, can you make me look better? But he's cool with it, man. He plays with it. He's like... So...
If he can, he can.
And then once you get, like, these guys, TriCast, you got Luis, you got Francisco, who's another creative, like, engine going into this. Bro, we're making stuff, dude. Big and better things on the way, dude. It's
yeah,
just,
2020 already, right?
What I think about your production, or this production, I was only there for 3 days, I think, right?
It was
The house.
the restaurant.
And I think I went with you guys somewhere else.
Yeah, you must have.
Yeah.
Because I remember.
Those 3
That's
days.
the cool thing about Erik is even if he's not on the scene, he'll come and hang out and help out on set.
I'll try to see like how the acting
Yeah,
is.
that's
I'm
true,
really
that's
big about
very
the
true.
acting, and I'll try to see how the acting is. I won't try to like input myself in there, but it annoys me when something's like not right. And
No, man, but
That's the funny thing about Erik when he's on set and he's not in front of the
But
camera.
It could be annoying.
No. Well, I don't know. Every actor that's acted with him has come on and saying, "Hey, dude, you helped me out a
Yeah,
lot on
and
set.
I
You
try to
helped
do
me out."
that.
So when he's behind
Yeah,
the
that's
camera,
what I
he's
was
like
saying.
frustrated. He's like,
I'm looking at the
You
like.
could
Okay,
do
Carlos
this,
wants
you
this
could
type
do
of
that.
emotion.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing
Yeah.
it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and
Yeah,
it's
I feel
because
you.
we have a shorthand. Where other actors, it may take them a minute to get what
Yeah.
I'm going for.
No, but
He
that's
knows
what
I'm going for.
But every time, yeah, I was gonna say the same thing you brought up is every time we have an actor or an actress or whatever, like you're always referenced as like the guy who opened them up a little bit on set.
and I hope I don't annoy him. But it's
No,
just,
I don't
no.
think so.
You can tell the
I gotta,
vibe
like,
is
yeah,
is
you're
growth
like you're
and-
doing good.
And what's
dude. It's just,
interesting
man,
is
get
that-
this, they'll be done. Yeah.
Castro, if you don't know, he's directed before, and I think that's
What?
that's
Really?
a that's
For a
a
class. It was a class project.
I think it's gonna be like Tim Robbins' career. You know, Tim Robbins is a theater guy and he's a great actor and
Yeah.
he's awesome. But he'll play with directing because he knows he can do it. Like he knows,
I'm flirting with writing right now.
you
for
know,
sure.
he'll flirt with that idea, and I think it's part of that itch that
Mhm.
I need to direct just to.
And then especially if you're like hanging around with this guy, Eric, you know, the directors, man.
Yeah, man. It's cool. That's what's cool about the crew is that everybody is respectively a writer director or they want
And
to do
and
something
there's still a
big.
competitive edge, which I'm very competitive, and I like it. I
Same.
like it. You know, you gotta call it out. You gotta call this out.
You know how you hear stories about like the Wolf of Wall Street, like you hear Marty was directing the big conference room scene, and then Spielberg showed up and he directed a scene. Like,
oh yeah, I did
you hear
yeah,
stories
yeah.
of that. Well, we were in the canyon. I think I don't know if it was you or me. We were texting Francisco. Again, Francisco was not involved in this production at all. It was Luis, and it was entirely him and his sensitivities. But it was like, hey, what are you guys doing? Like, you guys on set? Like, yeah, you want to drop by? We're here at the canyon. And he hung out. He came to hang out on set,
cool.
and it was a very,
Freezing day.
not just freezing, but it was
got that.
technically speaking like moving parts. It was tough because we had a stunt coordinator on set, Micah. Shout out to Micah, man.
Shout out
He's-
to Michael.
He did awesomely. He drove the car.
Cool.
He drove the Beamer for the action stuff, and Francisco was on set, but he was giving us shit the entire time because it was me and Luis working together. And he's like, man, it's not me directing. This shit's not gonna work out. Like we give each other those like.
But
little,
still beat on your butt to be good, you know.
No, yeah,
yeah.
I'm sure Francisco might have set up stuff on set. Like if we were encountering a problem, he probably just, hey man, what about this, and this? You guys should try this, and it would work out. I know you and him talked while I was working with the actors with Valerie, and I was talking to her. Him and Francisco were talking about the shot of the car, right? Because that was, I think, tough because of the lighting. There was a big key light and the focus. So he'll drop by and like, hey, let me hang out on set and see what you guys are doing. So we do have that relationship too.
Mhm.
I think that's fun in terms of competitivenz, and
Yeah, you
Uh,
need that. You need that.
you need somebody to kind of push you a little more.
exactly,
You know,
man.
I think this was one of the last things we shot on the because Michael just recently
Ooh,
so the Black
Upgrade.
Magic, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it might have been.
There's, yeah, the first day was tough because of that.
Really?
Some like, I'm sorry. Yeah, the first day was tough a little bit because of that, because we got like some like shutter, like technical stuff
There
because
was,
of
we worked
the
with two
A7S.
cameras, which I learned not to do since Sun City Lights. We shot on different cameras of different formats, and Luis as a DP is very, very comfortable with the A7S. He knows the in and outs. So he suggested, hey man, let's do a 2-shot for the restaurant stuff, or two cameras. Let's use 2 cameras. But one of them was a Mark
Yeah, it was
One, and the other one
It
was a
the
Mark
one and
II,
and the
and
one
even
was the
that-
one that messed up.
affected a little bit. So
Really?
Yeah.
It messes up the whole thing?
No,
even if
was
it's
just a
technical. It's technical.
It was
It's technical.
doing this shutter thing where the shots I don't know.
But
what
was
it
because you're trying to blend them, or because
It's-
one camera wasn't?
You can blend them, technically speaking,
Yeah,
but
it was because of the way that you know how the shutter. I don't know if you know how the shutter works, but in a camera, it's kind of like it lets you. Yeah, it lets light come in. Well, if it captures a certain, so I don't know, so certain bulbs emit certain light at certain kind of like
the
speed.
numbers are.
So
Right.
if it's not matching, then it's gonna like look wonky.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
usually
So-
on the professional big budget set, or if you can afford it, you'll have a light meter, and you'll
right.
scan the light
Right,
meter,
right,
and
right.
that light
Seen
meter will tell you set your ISO at this, set your.
Or even
Ah.
production lights are
Right.
usually more akin to, changing certain shutters.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you are working with the restaurant lights, the restaurant lights are probably gonna be like cheap bulbs that are kind
Are
of
barely
It's 'cause the
working.
thing with that
Oh,
one
that
was,
makes
like,
sense.
working, but
I
they're
feel
some
you.
of them were
frequency.
Yeah, yeah.
fluorescents. The main key restaurant lights were fluorescents, and then you had Edison bulbs with tungsten.
So it,
And I think that was the weird.
It was
It
a
was a weird
combination
lighting.
of certain things that like.
yeah. You learn a lot from these guys. From
No,
them just
yeah,
doing-
I mean-
It's purely technical, and it's one of those things that
It's good to
you
know.
learn from it, and,
Yeah.
and it's,
I don't think we used
definitely-
two cameras after that. We're just like, let's just stick to the one camera.
Let's stick
Yeah.
with a good camera that
What-
captures it
What's
better.
Yeah.
what's the thing you're most proud of technically or visually, like from the film, from your guys'?
I think camera movement for me. Again, this was one of those moments where we used. As a filmmaker, you buy all this equipment you think you're going to need in the future, and then you
Mhm.
realize you probably don't end up using half of it because it's something that a big crew thinks they need, and as an indie filmmaker, you're like, well, I'm on the gun, I'm on the run, I don't
Yeah,
need
yeah.
to shoot it, So we used our track and dolly, which we hadn't used in a long time. I think we used it once for depth of field, a couple times, but the track and dolly for the montage stuff was going to be super important. And the camera movement was something that I really appreciated in this one. It felt, because the challenge I gave Luis was, I want her if Chivo did the DP work. You know what I'm saying? Like,
You're so flattered.
no, he did, because I
That's cool, though.
want fluid camera movement within this storytelling medium, and I love fluid camera movement. You will very rarely see static shots in my films because not that they're boring, that they have their place in cinema, but I think the camera needs to dance around with the action. I think it's super important for me. So I think this was one of the first instances where we really executed that.
Can I say? I mean, like, I think it's a mixture of technically with emotionally. I feel like that's where I really kind of like saw a lot of the learning lessons on this one specifically, because I had been a cinematographer before, but I feel like a lot of the films that I had done were very concept based at that point. I think at that point it was very concept heavy. It was Mass World. It was like stuff like that.
Concept, visual.
Yeah, concept, visual, and I think seeing like the kind of the actors. I know that you were there for only like 3 production days, but doing so many, because when you have like a very certain shot that you need the dolly to do like I don't know, like a pan or whatever, and it needs to be visually correct, but also the actor needs to deliver every take.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So
You see,
a combination of that
here's-
was
It's
like
very.
a whole hour
The
about
challenge,
that.
though. Here's the challenge. For those of you who haven't seen the film Two Popes, it's a fantastic film. And the director of that said, you have to find creative ways. He's like, he's kind of the same as me. He's like, who cares about two people talking?
Right.
You have to find ways to entice the audience through camera work and through gaffing so that they're enticed just visually. Like, people are attracted to shiny things, man. They
Right.
just attracted to like the spectacle of a good looking film.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you've enticed them visually, then they're going to start paying attention.
Right.
And that was the challenge, was how are we going to create camera work, not just camera movement, but camera work in general,
That had like meaning.
that
right?
had meaning,
Mhm.
that had fluidity, that had value when two people are talking.
Yeah.
I mean, I do give a lot of props to Valerie in the sense that there was two specific 2 days, the
Yeah.
Canyon Day and the
She's so
hospital
cool,
day.
man. I love her.
The hospital
That-
day
that-
for her, I think
yeah.
that was her big expressive payout, and she had to cry on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we shot. I think we went with a Steadicam for that, right? We went with Steadicam for most of the hospital stuff because it was a walkthrough.
It depends on the shot, but I remember there was one shot that it was so emotionally heavy that I think we said like let's just do one take.
Yeah.
Like we're not gonna be able to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Most of the hospital stuff was one take because Valerie, she has this process where she needs to be isolated for emotional shots, right? And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
most actors.
I could agree with
try to
that.
do right? But she had
I could agree
to
with that.
be isolated, kind of in her own space. She put her headphones on. She got into this moment,
That's cool. I didn't know that.
and we were on standby.
It was like
That's-
from us. It was
that's
heavy
her getting
because it was
into
like,
it,
okay,
man.
we're not gonna take the second.
It
we're
was
not
one of
gonna
the
do a
first
second
times.
take. We're not.
It was one of the first time, one of the only times I've ever been on set, and I'm waiting for the actor, not the actor's waiting for
Which
us.
you should. Like,
Which
I
you
feel
should,
like
exactly. You
yeah.
should. It should be that way. But it was one of the times where we were ready. We had camera ready. We're on standby, and she would take a few minutes, and then she'd be like, "Okay, headphones off."
Telling
let's
you,
go.
man, she was
What
good
did
at
you
it.
was
guys
very
say
heavy.
about
And we
that?
knew those moments are precious.
I
We
do the
couldn't
same
waste
thing.
those
I did the
takes.
same thing for a scene with him.
There's still
I had,
time, yeah.
I had to give him like my own groove, dude.
Yeah.
So I actually admire that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, she. I don't know if she does that for every process or every emotional process, but I straight up told her when we were casting and we were going through the script and we were doing table reads, on the day of, I'm not gonna take anything less. You're gonna have to cry. You're gonna have to cry on the spot. I don't want to use fake tears. This is the most emotional moment of the movie, really. So I don't want to compromise that. And she was like, "Okay, all right, I'll make
dope,
it
dude.
happen."
I'll say that after that, after that,
Hospital.
is never on the moment, right? You never learn like that. But like after that, I learned that Christopher Nolan does this thing which I absolutely love, which is obviously he has very intricate setups and like everything needs to work, right? But sometimes it happens like that, like the actor needs to deliver much, right? So what he does is like he doesn't give any direction. He does one take and then another one and then another one and then another one. He is waiting for the camera work and for every single aspect to be perfect, and then do the direction of the actor, because that's gonna bring the soul and everything together. So I learned that patience was like a huge thing. And that because sometimes you're like, okay, like you need to deliver everything, and I feel like we were very much like that towards the beginning of our projects.
Look, let me tell you. I think I know what you're saying, because we had this oneer on Steadicam where we're following Valerie and the doctor and a nurse through the hallway, right? And the whole build up to this is she doesn't know how she doesn't know anything. She just knows that she's there because they called her because her boyfriend's been in an accident, and she doesn't know the rest. So it's building up to this moment of, is he okay? Is he in a coma? Is his head bashed in? Like, what am I getting ready to see? And spoiler alert, she sees nothing but an empty hospital bed. And the doctor has just brought her in to tell her the news that he didn't make it. So I told Luis, we're only gonna get one take of this. If you notice in the film, we had not a camera bump, but we had a hesitation.
Yeah.
We still used that take.
Right.
Because that was the most emotionally significant take.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, you
Scorsese
gotta go with
does.
We did 2 takes, I
Scorsese-
think. We got by to do 2 takes.
Yeah.
Scorsese's like that, right? With continuity, like even if like there's
cool, I didn't know that.
Wolf of
It's
Wall Street, I noticed
performance.
when he's talking
It's
to
performance
the
over.
agent. He's grabbing a drink, and then the next shot he doesn't have.
Right. It's performance versus.
He does say that.
Yeah.
Performance.
So that's the prime example. That's the prime example of like, we went with the emotionally heavy take.
Yeah.
And I
Fit
from the
perfectly.
script, I think it's in the script. I wanted that to go inaudible. I didn't want to hear her cry. I didn't want to hear her scream. I just wanted to see the visual, and I wanted to hear white noise. And that's what that tackled is like. The visual is more important than
I like
her
that too,
crying.
because
Her
Genius.
After that, we go into the reflection shot of like I think
Yep.
so.
6 months later.
6 months.
No. We're going to the montage.
Oh, yeah,
We go into the sad montage.
Oh yeah, the sad one.
So it was that transition from quiet into the sad montage kind of. And
That fit
Eddie,
perfectly.
the score was absolutely amazing. For
Shout out
this.
to Eddie again.
Yeah, he does the score for every one of our films for the most part, and the score for this, he hit it on the nose, man.
I'm gonna do something a little weird. I want you to say to the camera that you're a filmmaker.
What the?
Yo,
Trust me.
Do it.
okay, which camera am I?
Whichever one's funny.
All 3 at the
Yes, all of them.
I'm a film.
Not at me.
I'm a filmmaker.
Not at me. At the camera.
This is my camera.
Yeah.
Or that camera.
Yeah, just-
Hello?
Yeah,
Okay,
just
I'm
gotta-
a filmmaker.
Okay.
I'm a filmmaker. I'm not a good one, but I will be.
Nah, stop it.
No, I am a film. I am a filmmaker though.
No.
I am a filmmaker.
Yes.
I'm the actor.
Yes. With that said, what advice or tips do you guys have for newer filmmakers who are barely getting into this
Like me.
and like me, and they look at you guys with
Well, I think you guys could appreciate this answer is find good people that are passionate and are willing to go down for you.
Are you willing to go down for me?
Yeah, I'm not.
Wow.
Yes.
Say it again to the camera.
Wrong film.
On film.
No, but no seriousness though. Like
No, yeah, man. I think that's the first thing
Yeah.
because alone, dude, that's a long, hard road.
Do you want to go first?
I mean, primarily, honestly, to me, it's tell the story you feel you need to tell at that moment in your life.
True.
I think that's important because
That's
though on a filmmaker note, I didn't feel strongly about this film for the end product. I'm still very proud of what we accomplished. I'm still happy that I told this story in that point of my life where I was going through something and needed a form to express it. So I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy that we told this story in that time, even though we were still fairly green as filmmakers. I mean,
Yeah.
we were still green, but we were greener then.
As actor too.
And I think it's important to tell the story that won't let you sleep.
yeah.
It's important to tell the story that you have to tell.
That's a
Like
good way to put it.
you really have
the
to
one
tell.
that really just
Not the
bothers you.
story you think you need to tell because of technical reasons or financial reasons, but I think it's important to tell the story that you need to get out.
Mhm.
And then find the right people who are going to join you for this journey. It would have been very easy for Luis to say no to this.
Mhm.
It would have been very easy for Castro to turn down this role. It would have been very easy for my producers to say, nah, this isn't the film we want to make right now for Tower. It would have been very easy, and they jumped on it because they believed in it and maybe connected it with it on some level, but they knew that they were the right person. Like, okay, I know how to tell this story.
Yeah.
Let me help him tell this story. So, yeah, I mean, definitely that.
I would say, and I think I'm still in it. I think it's from James Cameron. I think who said this, but it's like, and I'm paraphrasing here, but just grab any camera, your phone, anything, shoot anything, and like put it out there, and you call yourself a director because you are a director.
Mhm.
So I think the thing about it is that for me at least it was very difficult to get started because there's this very vague like kind of void in that you feel like it needs to be filled up, and that once it fills up it means like, oh, how can I say this, like there's this big like leap into, okay, I made something and I haven't made anything. And feeling like jumping that leap, it almost feels like a big abyss, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
we all kind of hold filmmakers to some regard and some kind of like pedestal. So even if we make anything, even if it's something small, we never want to say, well, I'm there, because I think in our mind we're like, no, a filmmaker is, like Spielberg, I'm not that.
Right.
And I think like probably your little exercise and everybody saying I'm a filmmaker is because there's a part of yourself that kind of has to commit to that and say, no, I have reached this, or I have had enough experience to get there.
But it's borderline. Like when you say it to other people, in the beginning especially, it feels pretentious.
Yeah.
It feels pretentious. So, but when you get your handle around, so many people have had to tell me that, like, yo, dude, you guys just finished a 20 film campaign. You guys just did a feature. There's merit to that, and you have to give yourself that credit. Otherwise, you're always going to be insecure to make the next project.
Can I say, I think doing anything related to visual storytelling, I guess, visual audio storytelling, you have the right to call yourself a director, whether you're the director that you want to be, whether you are I don't think you're gonna be the Spielberg. I don't think you're gonna. And I think you need to realize that to keep growing.
Please,
But
please,
yes, you have the right to say, like, if you're putting the work, if you're putting all those things, you have the right to say, in my case, director, writer.
I agree.
Yeah, and I feel like that's for somebody starting out. I would say take the leap. Like, take the leap, and just do absolutely anything, and keep going, because that's keep working at it. Keep working at it.
Filmmaking really is, I think, and I hope you, like, new filmmakers who are wanting to make this happen, please make it about the journey and not the destination. Filmmaking is about the journey. Filmmaking is about, you have a lifespan of less than 100 years. Make them count, and make the films you're making count. Don't make it about, I'm gonna make my magnum opus. Who knows? Just make the film count.
True.
You were gonna say something, Delo?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, for you, Luis, like, when did you have that point where you're like, you could go to one other person and say, like, oh, I'm a filmmaker?
Good
like,
question.
Took,
Since you were talking about
it
that,
took a long time, because I'll be honest, I'm very much a person that thinks and thinks and thinks and thinks before I act, and it got to a point that it was ridiculous. Like, by that point, I had done, I think, about two cinematography for 2 short films, and I had opened a club about filmmaking, and I still hadn't directed, and I was still kind of figuring out what you could say what I wanted to do, but a lot of it is gatekeeping that you yourself self-impose, and it was as simple as, like, okay, like, this is enough. Like, other 2 club members had already director stuff, and I was like, okay, like, what's going on? Like, I want to do this.
I want to tell the story about Luis. Like, this little anecdote, just really quick. We met in college, right? We met at UTEP, the TriCast guys. That's where we met.
Like 3 years ago.
Yeah, and I remember just one time we were kind of already friends. We were walking to class. He sent me a script that he was starting to get into the, like, hey man, I'm writing. I think I want to direct something. And I don't think you ever made the film, but this is exactly what he's talking about. It was about the grandpa. And you remember that? So he sent me that script, and I told him, like, oh, you got to make this. Like, I think this is great. I think, like, these are my notes. You should do this. I had already directed, I guess, a few things at that point. So he never made it. Like, at that point, he was still like, nah, man, this isn't the right thing. It's not the right thing. And then finally, when he got into directing, I was like, it made me so happy that he took that long. It's almost like the story of, like, Jay-Z, where Jay-Z made Reasonable Doubt when he was like 28. You know what I'm saying? Like, it took him a while to get there, but once he got there, he knew exactly what he was going for. So even back then, man, like, he was just like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to jump into it with this. I have to wait for the right thing. Usually I discourage that. I'll be honest. Usually I discourage that because I'm on the James Cameron front where let's get out there and do something.
From what I've learned, I think that's the way.
And Rodriguez, man, Rodriguez points that out. Rodriguez said, like, his philosophy is, you have 10 bad films in you. Get all the bad films out so that you can get to the good one.
That's good.
And it's gonna be bad in the beginning. That's
swinging.
That's fair. You're a novice. It's you know, but he's an example of overthinking working.
When he had the talent to do it.
And even he's saying, like, no, just get out there and do it. But I think that's a testament to, like, what he's saying. Like,
I think what he's saying, that you took too long knowing that, dude, you're ready. Like,
yeah, like, at that point it was ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I knew that I was gonna be able to do things that I was seeing around.
You seem
That's
like
what
a
you were telling
go-getter, though.
yourself.
That's the thing. So I wouldn't have thought you were like.
No, but I was incredibly. Yes, I wasn't
sure.
that way. I wasn't that way before. I very
he
much
was just
feel
taking
like.
everything in when I first met you.
Yes, but now looking back, it's one of those things, one of those lessons that I've heard, but I didn't really implement it because I do feel that it took me like about a year and a half to really direct anything, and I feel like that time I could have directed 2 things. You know what I mean? And now I'm looking at it as like that was time that I prepared, and it's not a wasteful time.
No.
However, you know, like I feel like. I don't know. I do feel like the biggest leap is that one of the biggest leap is at the beginning, and just do it, just absolutely do it, and then after that it's just about keeping. It's like a shoemaker, man. Like, you need to keep doing shoes for you to be able to fix shoes.
Yeah.
So, like, just keep doing shoes.
Va a pasar, eh?
But yeah.
I like this actually. Let's get a little round of applause for this episode because this was a.
Hey, hold on.
We're back.
De La
Thank you
O.
guys.
What's
Yep.
the good word of the day?
Um,
That's right. Think about it. You got 5 seconds.
4, 3.
What's the good word of the day that you heard through the week?
Tiffany Twisted.
Tiffany Twisted.
Yeah.
What is that?
I don't know, but it sounds amazing.
That's the
like,
word of the day. We all gotta
Like-
use that once
Tiffany
today.
Twisted. Man, y'all got me Tiffany Twisted.
Yeah, there you go. One.
I'd like to end it. We usually end it with some trivia, but since the Oscar nominees will be coming out tomorrow.
So not trivia, but
Oh yeah, it won't be trivia today, but I kind of was curious since we have a director, a DP cinematographer, and an actor. Who are you hoping gets nominated and wins?
come
Director,
on.
cinematography.
That's unfair. Everybody
And
knows my
actor.
answer. For director, Martin Scorsese, I
And why?
think should take the Oscar. Because he's Martin Scorsese, there doesn't have to be another. No.
that.
I do think in terms of storytelling.
Another hour.
No, I'll be short. I think in terms of storytelling, The Irishman is a testament to what Scorsese can do, and that he's still challenging himself. He's a legend, man. He doesn't need to do this. 77,
Dude, what is it, like 3-hour movie?
3.5.
A lot of CGI on
He
there.
doesn't have to do this anymore, man. Like he could retire.
If he was in
happily.
Midsummer, he'd been.
Yeah, his
Right?
Wow.
He's got to maintain those eyebrows.
His legacy, right? His legacy is just that, man. He could stop whenever he wanted. He could be lazy and just make films, and everything would be great. And The Irishman is a testament to his storytelling abilities, and I think it's the best character development film out this year, which is what I care about the most. So I think that's why he should win.
Who was the guy?
I mean,
Best
look,
cinematography.
as he is.
I don't know who they are.
For the movies?
The Knots. For
Yeah,
the
because
Knots.
the nuts come tomorrow. So whatever movie
Yeah,
that you've
whatever
seen,
you think
whatever you
you-
see
whatever
that,
you've
that you've
I
seen.
want to see this guy
Yeah.
nominated.
Okay, I know.
So I've only seen a trailer, but I'm gonna say 1917 for Roger Deakins.
Yeah, that looks
For
really
cinematography.
good.
I mean, it's like you. It's almost like you're a Scorsese fanboy. I'm a Roger Deakins fanboy. Dude. Like
I can't not.
when I saw the trailer, there's something almost undescribable about like an image that communicates more than what it's telling, and like I feel that way with Roger Deakins like cinematography. And having said that, like the film that I've seen that I actually really do admire, it's Jojo Rabbits. I feel like the cinematography for that it's also really good. I feel like
We did it cinematography.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but I would.
I wonder
don't
if
know,
Taika
Roger
works with
Deakins.
the
Yeah,
same
I feel
guy.
you. Roger
I don't
Deakins is
think
the
so.
guy who worked on.
Blade Runner
Yeah, right.
2049,
Okay.
Sicario.
Oh, okay. I like his
He's
stuff.
a
man.
legend, man.
Yeah,
He is amazing. He's amazing, man.
So then I do gotta watch 1917.
So yeah,
It's awesome.
Watch.
We saw it on Friday. It was a fantastic film. I do agree. I think for cinematography, it should take it.
He hasn't won
And
an
I,
Oscar.
and I
yet,
love.
huh?
2049.
Yeah,
Oh,
2049.
he did one for 2049.
I think
Okay.
Rodrigo Prieto is amazing, man. I think he's very underrated and talented, and he's working with Scorsese. But I think Roger Deakins takes the cake for this one.
No, actually, yeah, I would say second place. I would definitely
Rodrigo
say
Prieto.
Rodrigo Prieto. Yeah.
None of them, dude. Guy Ritchie, dog. Guy Ritchie.
He's not nominated this year. He didn't do anything.
For
He
Aladdin.
should. He should.
He did The Gentleman, which comes out next
Nah,
year.
for actor, I think Joaquin Phoenix
Yeah.
set the
Yes.
whole pedestal
Yeah,
for
yes.
everything, man. Even for like a Joker film coming from the other guy,
Yeah, he's
dude.
That's true,
even though
man.
it's not
That's
the
hard.
Joker, it's Joker. It's a different.
That is the. Yeah.
It's not the Joker they had. It's
It is
Joker.
the Joker.
It's just Joker. They had a
Fight.
yeah. So it's Joker, not the Jokey.
And
Oh, you mean
El
the title of
Guasón.
like, the film?
And
To be
in
fair,
Mexico, El
this
Guasón.
Arthur is not the Joker that they use
Exactly,
the most.
Austin.
Oh well, yeah, but it's still
He's
a variation.
he's like a modern variation. He's not the original Joker.
So it's officially Joker.
Yeah.
Not the Joker. 'Cause the Joker's.
But he's definitely Joaquin Phoenix, and I
Yeah,
agree
for
with
sure,
you.
man. That's somebody as an
If
actor.
Joaquin Phoenix was right here in this room, you tell that to his face.
Yeah.
You're not the Joker. You're a Joker.
You definitely
He'd probably
pulled off the Joker. That's all.
Kill you.
You're awful, Eric.
I'll definitely tell you.
You're telling him that he's gonna win the
Yeah,
best
he's gonna
actor.
win. He is.
What are you guys thinking I'm saying?
Yeah. I agree
know
with
what
you.
you're saying. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. The comic book origins. When you're making a comic book film, you have to honor that. But
Yeah.
but I agree. I think he's gonna win.
Because this is a standalone film, right? It's not a.
I don't think
not gonna be
Bob.
with the new
Ooh,
Batman.
let me ask you this:
Regardless.
Who's gonna win Best Supporting Actor
That's a good.
from what you've seen? I know who I want, but
I don't know, man.
Same.
Refresh my memory.
I think either Al Pacino or Joe Pesci deserve it.
Really?
Man.
I was thinking
haven't
Brad
seen-
Pitt.
Ah,
Really?
Ah, man.
Brad Pitt's a good choice.
Well, he won for the
True,
Golden
he did.
Globes.
Yeah, the Golden Globe.
I don't think he deserves it.
I gotta go with.
I don't think
Yeah.
he deserves it over Pacino. Pacino was amazing in The Irishman.
He was. He
Pesci
was.
was
He
driven
was.
out of retirement and still acted
You're right.
at circles around
He
motherfuckers.
did. He
Like,
did. He did.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hey, but there's an argument that Brad Pitt is a leading actor too in that film.
There is an
I don't take
argument.
him Leo because he's.
yeah, Leo. It's
he's
more about
the-
Leo's
yeah.
character.
Yeah.
That film.
Yeah.
Anyways,
It's a tough call.
Anyways, I
It's a
think that
tough
about
call.
wraps it up, you guys. Dang, got heated, man.
It
We were
got
having
a
such a good
little
episode. All right, you guys. I think that about wraps it up for us. Keep writing your scripts. Keep telling your stories. And
next episode.
the next episode will actually be a Tower Productions origin story. So if you're interested in knowing how these guys started up, and eventually I think I'll be in there, right? Eventually at the end of the episode, they'll mention how they met me or something. But
But you're,
you're still hosting. You're still hosting.
oh, of course I'm still hosting. But they're not here for me. They're here for
No,
Carl.
but definitely talk about. You want to talk about. We're gonna include some room to talk about what worked for us, what didn't work for us as new filmmakers, and
Being
not
real.
just the origins. I mean, we want to get into that, but talk about what worked for us as filmmakers and what might help.
This is the podcast.
Spilling the sauce.
This is the podcast by El Paso filmmakers for El Paso filmmakers. Please tune in to the next one. We love you. Good night. Good morning. Afternoon.